What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, RoboFiends. I have a pretty interesting video for you today. Today we're going to talk about how to make an AC from scratch. Now, it's a pretty weird video right now, honestly, but it makes a lot of sense. I kind of feel like it's a video I probably should have made many years ago, and I've never actually done so. So the whole point of this video is to get into the mindset, the mind state that I go into whenever I have to make a build. Whether it be a build that's a request or a build that I myself am making from scratch, or let's say I'm doing something, I need a particular thing done. How do I go about doing that? So there's a couple of questions I ask myself, and you could ask yourself these questions as well. Like, what do I need it for? Pretty blanket term. What do you need this particular AC for? Obviously to beat the baddies, but in what capacity? What are we fighting? Who are we fighting? What's going on? So in this particular game, this is a viable question for a lot of different reasons. You have, I need an AC for, let's say, just doing general missions, just doing stuff, fighting small MTs, light MTs, maybe a heavy MT here and there, you know, whatever. Some LC units, whatever. Let's say you need one to fight a particular boss. Like there's just one boss you're stuck at. What do I need it for? Or let's say you're just on the PvP tip. You know what I mean? This is the meta for PvP. How do I go against the current meta or whatever? Those kind of questions. Like another question I would totally ask myself with is like, what am I comfortable with? Because this right here, this is the more powerful question, I like to think, because that question, what am I comfortable with, dictates what kind of AC is going to be made. Because let's say you're not comfortable using tank treads or reverse joints, so like, okay, I'm gonna try to base my build on not those things. I'm gonna base on my strengths, you know, bipedal and tetrapods, quads, tables, if you will. So these are some questions I like to ask myself. I'm relatively comfortable with everything thus far. I don't favor too much tanks. However, I'm getting over that. Now, lest you think that this is like two-dimensional, it's not. This same exact question can be asked to your weapons. So there's a lot of weapons that I like to use, and there's a lot that I don't usually use. If anything, you can look at all my build videos from previous to really show you what I prefer to use and what I don't prefer to use. And I don't necessarily use certain things because I think it's not strong enough or it's not meta enough. It's just things that I'm not comfortable with making. So I only necessarily make builds that I have a lot of knowledge with, or previous information I could utilize from previous builds that can go ahead and be put on future builds, and so on. So that's another kind of question I ask myself. Now, understanding like the stats, what all those mean, what all the statistics mean, what all the menus and all that stuff, like E in resupply, generator output, E in charge, E in load, quick boost speeds, assault boosts, you know, all these things, the thrusters. Understanding what all these things are will make this infinitely easier for you. I will admit, even though they still tell you what these things do, it isn't 100% black and white as to like how to utilize such things. So we're gonna kind of break down a couple of these terms for you guys as well, on top of talking about certain mechanics that certain parts themselves have in their own possession. Now, mind you, we're gonna make this video from a particular standpoint where I myself in the game am not very far. Unfortunately, again, the game has like killed all my save data. Now, I know what you're thinking, Dak, the game tells you how to save. Trust me, guys, I've saved appropriately. I have quit the game properly, shut it down correctly, and the game still said, nah, I'm eating your progress. That's why I'm supposed to be at least, I think, A rank, S rank. I'm S rank on the arena, but no, all that's gone. Whatever. But let's go into the game, and I will show you guys, for the most part, what it is that I do when I go to make AC. So right now, this is just a completely blank AC. This AC is made out of straight Melander parts. These parts you can buy, like from as soon as you get the shop. That's what this is. This is not a real build. This is just a blank sheet. That's why he's blank. So we're going to start here, and we're going to talk about what we want to do. Let's say we want a general AC, just an AC to get the job done. Usually ACs that get the job done, they tend to lean around the medium weight, medium bipedal thing. Okay, so it's currently technically a medium bipedal. The AP is decent enough. 10,000 AP will get you through a lot of things, especially when just going through missions where there's, you know, like generic weapons, missile things here, a couple of, you know, nothing too crazy. Even when you have to fight some actual MTs, LCs, PCAs, whatever, you can still technically get the job done with this. It's not until you get to fighting like, you know, mini bosses and actual bosses and such where it kind of poses a bit of an issue, but this is still fine. You can beat actual bosses with less AP, but it all comes down to the rest of these numbers and stats and stuff over here. So we're going to get into that shortly, but let's say, for example, we're going to be fighting a bunch of groundlings. So one thing I like to do when fighting groundlings is I like to get at least one weapon I can spam. At least one weapon that could usually do them in a couple of shots. Assault rifles are great for this. I prefer the manual assault rifles. By that I mean the ones that shoot one at a time. Granted, in this particular game, the assault rifles are actually horrible when it comes to magazine capacity, sitting at 18 to 15 or something like that. Burst rifles, they sound good, but same magazine capacity, so it means you're going to get 5 bursts out of it. I think it's a 3 burst. Yes, so you're only going to get 5 out of it, and it can be charged, so that way you can do a bit more damage and have a bit more impact, so that's a thing as well. But it's just, I like to have something that can just hold the trigger down and just go at it. Now, speaking of holding the trigger down, let's take a look at these stats right here. Since this is going to be our primary weapon to just mop up a couple of groundlings. So the things we need to look at, obviously, off the top, is attack. I'm not gonna put this on here. I'll talk about when we need to. We're gonna look at, go back to this. We're gonna look at attack power. Attack power for this one is 87. Now, you could look at them like, okay, that's not a lot. It's compared to, you know, whatever. I mean, if you look at the bars do help you, let you know what's what. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the ammunition cost over here, it's 40. There are very few weapons that have less ammunition cost. I think Gatling guns are one that has less than that. But the problem with Gatling guns is they have 2,000 ammo and you can like spray them for days. So you're probably going to run up all your bullets. So the ammo cost is relatively low. That's why the bar is so high. If you look at the damage, the attack power, the bar is quite low, but the damage is 87. Of course, this is still fine, all things considered, if you're just killing groundlings. What this thing is really useful for, outside of that, is peppering on a bit of impact, as well as a cumulative impact. So let's say you're fighting somebody, and your impact is pretty high because of you shot a missile or whatever. Landing shots with this assault rifle can either A, make the impact go higher so that way the opponent is staggered, or B, keep it to where the range of that particular stagger bar is modest so that way it doesn't completely decay and you have to start all over again. So it's kind of cool for that. Now, another thing you have to worry about that's actually very important is the recoil. Recoil for this is very low. What the recoil does is, I know what it does, but I gotta like double check it again. Recoil that occurs when firing. So what this does, depending on how much a weapon recoils, will also tend to dictate how fast it fires. Fire rate is also dictated by rapid fire. Number of rounds that can be fired within 1 second. If you look to this, it's 3.4 a second. So let's say, for example, the recoil for this was like 10. You would probably be able to shoot 2.5, like 4.5 or something like that. So recoil is something you need to look at, as well as another stat called recoil control, but that's for your arms. For the most part, we're going to skip that for right now, but let's look at the other things that we need to really worry about. So outside of that, how do I get it? Okay, outside of the recoil, look at ideal range and effective range. Now, these two figures are very important because depending on where you are, see, ideal range is 160 meters, effective range is 296 meters. 296 meters will allow you to hit an opponent and usually not ricochet. Now, if you're further than that and you tend to lock on and still shoot the bullets at the opponent, your hits are going to ricochet. They may do like 1 or 2 points of damage. They'll do pitiful damage. The bullets ricochet. Now, your effective range and your ideal range, you want to be inside of that. So let's say you're in 200 meters. At 200 meters, your bullets would probably hit and they would do decent enough damage. They'll do the proper amount of damage. Any lower than that, they can technically still do the right amount of damage. It's just that weapons at this particular fire rate, at a closer range than that, tend to not hit the target because the target's moving a lot. I don't want to get too crazy when it comes to like physics or whatever, but if you have something that's a little slower to fire, either too close up, it's actually a lot easier to dodge things that are too close. Well, let me explain. If the gun shoots slow and you're really close range, you're probably not going to hit that many bullets because you can dodge out of the way and be so far out of the way that you'd have to turn your AC way around, make huge adjustments to your aiming to actually land those shots. Versus if you were a bit further back, you can make smaller adjustments and still land those shots. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully that made sense. Like, imagine, take a pencil and look at it, like close to your face. Look at it. Now, if you move it all the way to the left, like outside of your vision, you have to like actually turn your head to look at it, right? Now, if you were to take that same pencil and hold it at arm's reach, it before it goes out of your line of sight, you have to pull that pencil way over here or way to the other side. You know what I mean? So when it's easier for you to actually look at it versus having to actually turn your head, because if it's closer you have to turn your head, but if it's way out you don't have to turn your head, you just look at it. That's what I mean. If it's far enough to where you can actually just look at it, same with the bullets. If the target is far enough from you to where you can just slightly angle your camera and shoot it, there you go. Versus if it's like in your nose and you can't aim once it moves out your way. Very long, overlong rather, discussion about effective ranges and such, but that's a thing. So outside of that, as far as like a weapon goes, like this one in particular, not much else to really look into. Ammunition cost talked about. Reload time is reload time, total round count, magazine count, everything else is normal. Now direct hit adjustment, if you look at it, oh hold on, I messed up. Direct hit adjustment can't, I put that on, I didn't mean to. Direct hit adjustment, damage multiplier when attacking a staggered enemy. This means, okay, like let's say you finally get the stagger on an enemy. This is an important statistic to look at as well. How much extra damage are you doing? Because a staggered opponent takes additional damage. And the meter is about halfway, so this is really good. Try to have a weapon that has a decent amount of this as well. That's actually not that bad. So other weapons have different parameters. For example, linear rifles have all this extra stuff, like cooling was not here, charge time was not here. Was there something else? No, it's just these two. Cooling and charge time was not here. And you have this menu right here. Charge attack power, charge impact, cumulative impact, heat buildup, etc. So every weapon has their own parameters, but for the most part, what we spoke about is kind of the, like, not once like the baseline, but some things that you need to understand when choosing weapons to do certain tasks. So very long discussion about weapons out of the way. We decided to run with an assault rifle because it gets the job done. And if we need to hit a little harder, I like to run things like, well, I would like to have a weapon that hits a little harder outside of a weapon that just does generic work. So in this particular case, let's say for me, I would like to have something, depending on the game, I'd rock a bazooka, but this one probably not so much due to having to stand your ground for firing ranges and whatnot. But that goes to that alone right there, the fact that you have to stand still to shoot this thing, that comes down to understanding the mechanics of certain parts, like we talked about before, one of the 3 or 4 questions I spoke about. But in this case, we're gonna put a assault rifle in one arm and a plasma gun, or a laser rifle. Actually, we'll put a laser rifle in the other. Laser rifle is another weapon that you have to charge up for, but if you look at the attack power at 256, its charge attack power is 1,222. And of course, you look at the rest of the parameters as well. Everything else is relatively self-explanatory. What this means is we have a weapon now that does like enough damage to kill up beat up the groundlings, and another one just in case something has a little bit more AP and you need to do a little more effective damage to it, and you have that. Also, charged weapons tend to do more damage, like, obviously, but they do more impact as well. So let's say you actually need to stagger an opponent, your charged weapon probably can take care of that for you, and then you could pepper them down with your other weapon on the other side of your body. So boom, so we have our weapons selected because we're going to be doing a little bit of random fighting, beating a couple of little MTs or whatnot, and the occasional more effective LC and so on. So now that our armed weapons are taken care of, we're gonna look at our back units. Now, when I select back units, this is explicitly dependent on what I'm trying to do, 100%, because your back units can do a multitude of things. They can either complement you or supplement you. Okay, 2 different things. Complementing, let's say, back weapons are like missiles and such. So that way, let's say our whole target is to kill a bunch of groundlings and such, like we talked about many times already. Missiles are great for that. Let's say you're reloading both weapons in your hand and you have a lock on, just shoot some missiles at it. The missiles will probably take them out. They do relatively effective damage. You'll be fine. Let's say you're actually fighting, like actual proper fighting. I may want to do something that's supplementary. So instead of running a Bay weapon, depending on the Bay weapon, because songbirds are actually quite godlike, I would probably want to run, let's say, another actual weapon. A very good combination is to have, this is the right side. Okay, let's go left side. Let's say we're on the left side. A very common thing to do is to have like a melee weapon on your left side. If you have the weapon bays unlocked in your OS tuning, all you have to do is go do like one round in the arena. I think the weapon bay is 1 chip to unlock. You get a minimum of 2 chips every time you beat someone in the arena. It's totally free. Just go take care of that, and you'll have what you need to do the weapon bay unlock. So let's say you have weapon bay unlock. A great complementary, supplementary, if you will, would be to have a melee weapon on one of your back units. And maybe let's say let's actually equip it. I do love this one. And let's say one over here. Let's make it we're running out of weight. What is that? This laser rifle? Let's put a bazooka. Okay, boom. So what are we looking at here? Okay, on the the right side of our body is our impact, because these 2 weapons over here are going to be doing the big damage, creating lots of impact. And the stuff on the other side is picking off groundlings. And also the blade can do basically everything else. You can clean up small enemies. You can do raw actual damage. You can do lots of stagger with it. Blades are amazing in this game. So in this particular case, I like to think this weapon set is balanced. Would I use this all the time? Probably not. But this is another thing that you have to understand. What am I going to do? So this will be okay if, let's say, you're doing a mission where eventually you're gonna fight like a sub boss or whatever. You need to go in with your mindset thinking, okay, I need to beat a bunch of little things and then a boss. So we have the one weapon for a bunch of little things, and then a setup so that way we could fight a boss. We stagger the boss with the 2 weapons on the left, and then pull the blade out to do mad damage on the boss, or even a pow bunker, because pow bunker is insane damage as well. So that's what I think about when I go to fight basically anything. So that's why I chose these weapons right here, this exact weapon set. So as far as weapons go, that's how I would do it. Just think ahead as to what you're trying to do, and then slowly and meticulously try to figure out of all the things that's in there, how can I combat all these issues? Small enemies, assault rifle. We're fighting the actual boss, we need to stagger him, because stagger is a huge point in this game. Or let's say between the small enemies there's the occasional larger enemy, a charge weapon. Boom, laser in the assault rifle. Now we're fighting a boss. Laser does large impact, bazooka does fat impact and damage. And then once he's staggered, pull the blade out to do some tomfoolery. And let's say we're not going to use the blade, we're going to keep using the assault rifle, because the assault rifle, like we talked about, does decent damage when it's staggered, and keeps it so that way the impact meter continues to slowly rise up to stagger, while we're waiting for our other weapons like the laser rifle and the bazooka to reload and such. So weapons are taken care of. I apologize if this video is very long, but I want to be very thorough. Now we're at the actual parts for the AC itself. In my previous videos, many years past, I always started at the legs, because you can look at an AC's legs and be like, I know what we finna get down and do, okay? If you're running regular bipedal, we're finna slug it out. Regular bipedals, they're good for, in like all regards, they're the average. Nothing wrong with being average. They're the hard-working man, the blue collar, you know what I'm saying? Not very specialized. The what do you call it? The all-arounder, jack of all trades, bipedals. Nothing wrong with bipedals. I love them. I use them all the time, actually. But you have other bipedals like these that are heavy, quote-unquote heavy bipedals. And they tend to just literally weigh more, have higher defenses. They don't really tend to be very quick or used to actually be very fast and so on. They have a lot of things about them that make them lesser in some people's eyes and higher in others. Usually also the heavier ones tend to have a lot larger load capacities. That's the case with this one as well. And it's also due into the fact as to how these particular legs are manufactured. Also just read the description, they'll help you out a little bit with that. So now let's look at, oh, I forgot, these are also bipedal. Let's look at reverse joints. Reverse joint legs are interesting legs, because bipedal legs we spoke about before, they are very basic. They get the job done. If you look at their stats, let's talk about the bipedals a little bit further. So we talked about before we talk about the reverse joints. Bipedals we talked about, they have basic stats and everything. One thing that really sets them apart from others, if you look at the jump height and the jump distance, numbers are quite low. They are 83, 87, 22 as far as jump height goes. Low limit is pretty decent, of course. It's because it's a medium one. We talked about how the heavy ones tend to have like way more, so that's something to look into. Attitude stability is pretty decent as well. Attitude is how well you can resist being staggered, so to speak. So imagine, in order to be staggered, you need to take 1,500 points of stagger, right? Let's just say that's a thing. Depending on what parts you have, it can take either you can accrue more or less points. So let's say I have a huge attitude stability and I need to take 3,000 points of stagger, or I have a very shitty build and that build only can take 1,000 points and then I get staggered. You know what I'm trying to get at? That's the attitude thing. So just try to have a build with pretty decent attitude. But yes, the stats for the bipedals are like that. Now let's go look at reverse joints. Reverse joints are pretty different. And this one in particular, don't take this as not fiction, but gospel. There you go. Don't take it as like gospel, because this one is a lightweight one. There is a heavier one. I just lost all my data and I don't have it. But this one, don't necessarily pay attention to the defenses and stuff, because of course it is a lightweight. There are medium and heavy reverse joints that tend to have the same that follow the same path line. So a heavy bipedal will have high defenses, a heavy reverse joint, high blah blah blah. Okay, so the thing to look at with reverse joints is their low capacities can be pretty either great or meh. This one has a little meh, but they can be really good because the way the legs are designed. But the biggest thing about them is the jump height and jump distance. Even the heaviest reverse joints jump way better than any of the bipedals. They jump better than most light bipedals, you know what I mean? So the jump distance is what is that, like almost 4 times? Yeah, about 4 times. Yeah, 4 times the amount, not a little bit more. The jump distance is also 4 times the amount. So yeah, like what this really predicates on is like the way in which you play the game. So let's say you're fighting someone who you think to yourself, okay, as I'm fighting him, I'm noticing that I do better when I'm in the air. Like the longer I stand in the air and you know, rain on him with like missiles and bazooka shots and everything, the plasma, I tend to do better. Okay, how do you get in the air and still stay mobile? Reverse joints, because you don't have to spend this jump height. You don't have to spend any EN for that. That's free 80 feet or 80 meters, whatever you want to call it. After that, you have to spend points for spend fuel to ascend. But for the most part, this is what you want. You want to be able to jump higher than them and be up high for free, so that way you can have the advantage. Now the jump distance is another thing that's pretty great. The jump distance is more so like, let's say you want to jump forward or to either side, strafing or whatnot. This can get pretty nutty depending on what booster setup you have. So that way, even if you have a pretty okay booster, your jump distance is so huge that you're still gonna boost further than someone with a much better booster for quick boosting to the side and so on. I already did the math on it. I don't know if I have a video footage for it. I may. If not, I'll put it on the screen or something like that. How much better your jump, well, how well your jump distance works in correlation with your quick boosting for strafing and whatnot. It's actually pretty insane, because like with 2 quick boosts, with 2 quick boosts on a reverse joint, you basically quick boosted 3 times with a bipedal. If that makes any sense, if you kind of follow where I'm going here with that. So that's reverse joints and bipedals. Of course, their gimmick, if you will, their mechanic is for them to, oh, this is a slightly heavier one. Yeah, so this one has better defenses, but is for them to have the ability to jump very well. Now, moving to the tetrapods, the tables, if you will, these are my guys. These are my people. I love them. They're my favorite joint. So tables, much like tanks, they have more AP because they're just bigger. They tend to follow that correlation. They just usually have more. Even the lightest ones tend to be on the higher AP side compared to bipedals and reverse joints. So for example, this one has 6. This is a heavy. This has like, no, this is a light. No, this is a heavy. This one is the heavy and has 6,850 AP. The light has 5,600. Dude, I can go to these legs. Okay, these are pretty solid mediums and they only have 4,000. Okay, but the lightweight has almost 6K, if you see what I'm going with that. Now, going back to the tetrapods, they can't jump for poop. They have bad jumping. Their jump distances, I mean, yeah, the relative jump is kind of nah. With more legs, you're trying to jump a little bit better. You do have a slightly decent jump, but it's not anything to go, call home about. Your height isn't worth crap either, because if it was, it'd be kind of broken. Because I'm going to talk about its actual unique mechanic, one of the two. So tetrapods have the ability to hover. I have to show you this actually. We're just gonna have to go in. I have to show you how drastic this is for you guys. So tetrapods, they hover. Hovering is insanely good for certain instances. You press a button and that's it. You're losing a bit of EN. Depending on your generator, it'll go down slower or faster. But bro, we're sitting. We pop on a squat and we could slide with it. You know what I mean? We only lose more when we boost. But yo, we out here. So this could be great for a lot of things. There's a particular fight, I forget what it's called, the thing with the fire and the little it looks like, you know, those razors from back in the 50s where they had like all the roller things on it. I don't know, the fiery eruption boss thing that was in the, I don't know what it's called. I'm probably butchering, but you guys can figure it out. His weak spot is in his little volcano. The best way to attack that is to literally do this and then just shoot it straight up, because he can't really hit you from this distance, and you can just aim down and shoot him. So yeah, so the tetrapods can hover. Hovering is really good for navigation. As far as like that goes, is basically top notch next to like a reverse one. He could jump like mad crazy. But this is very useful because let's say you just want to hover above all the commotion and fire down righteous fury, if you will, on the enemies. That's pretty good. As far as like a PvP thing goes, maybe not the best. It really depends on what the enemies actually have, well, they themselves have. Now, the second quirk that they have is, let's find something. Do we have bazooka. Okay, cool. So a bazooka, let's change a couple parts again. Let's put these legs on. Okay. When firing a bazooka on a bipedal, you have to stop and shoot. So when you shoot it, all right, I'm gonna try my best to move. Can't move until it's done. With a tetrapod, walking, still walking the whole time. Look at the feet. Look at the feet. Look at the feet. Walk the whole time. That's how they go. They don't have to stop to do the things you do when you use a weapon with recoil. Same with the tanks. Now that's the special thing about the tanks. Tanks do the exact same thing. Tanks have wild mobility. We're not gonna talk about that. It's definitely a thing you have to get used to. But tanks, as you're driving, you can just fire heavy weapons like this without stopping. It's also one of the quirks that these things have. Now, the same does not apply to... Do I have heavy? Well, it doesn't apply to the bipedal or the reverse joints. Just the tetrapods and tanks are the only ones who are allowed to do that. Even the lightest tank tread can do this. It's just how they work. So, as far as legs go, those are very important things to note when building an AC. Depending on what you're comfortable with, do you like to hover? Do you think hovering would be useful in this particular battle, in this map? The tank legs are like super heavy. That's when you want AP. So it's like, do I want to have horrible air maneuverability? Because tanks have god awful air maneuverability. I mean, you think they would? They're just big slabs of, you know, dude. It's like a car floating. Okay, it's not very good. I mean, look, Iron Man is the bipedal. Iron Man flies quite nice. Tetrapod, we already spoke about that. And then tanks are like, if tanks could fly, probably couldn't maneuver that well, and they don't. So that's the weakness of the tank. They have horrible air maneuverability. Now that we spoke about that, the rest of the AC itself is 100% on you. Like, but by that I mean it's on you as to what you want it to do, but also you have to do things that make sense. Oh, one last thing I forgot. I'm glad to mention. Tanks have their own custom boosters, so no matter what booster you have, you can't put those boosters on a tank. That's why when you choose a tank tread, you should very much pay close attention to the way the tank itself maneuvers. So let's say we put this one back on. The speed for this one is 271, but the speed for this one is 373. Okay, that's because of the actual tank treads themselves. They have their own special boosters that react accordingly to your core. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be a long video because I forgot about talk about that, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna talk about cores and boosters in a second. We just got finished talking about legs. So put the regular legs back on. Let's go to arms. Now arms we can talk about very briefly, but every single thing you see on the list here for arms is important, minus I guess for the defenses. Defenses of course do what defensive stuff does. Now arm load limit, recoil control, firearm specialization and melee specialization. Those 4 things you need to understand, bro. You guys need to have this down, son. Listen to your boy speak. Arm load limit dictates how heavy certain things can be, and you hold on to them. That was a very weird way of saying it. Let's say a bazooka weighs 10,000 pounds, right? And your arm load limit is only 15,000 pounds. You literally cannot hold 2 bazookas because that's 20,000 pounds. Your arms can't carry that much weight. Even if your load limit can, your arms can't carry it. That explains that straight up. Recoil control. This is the important one. I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to double it once more. Okay, so let's say you're firing a Gatling gun, right? Gatling guns, they fire quickly. Now, depending on how high your recoil control is, this dictates how accurate that fire is. Your weapon spread, so to speak. So instead of the bullets landing in the same spot every time, due to the recoil of the weapon and your ability to control that recoil, will dictate where those bullets end up. Okay? Very important. I urge you guys to not have this stat under 100 for almost any reason, unless you're running a special build and that build doesn't necessarily need recoil control. Now, mind you, if you are running a build that has no melee weapons, you should only focus on recoil control and firearm specialization. Firearm specialization helps with tracking, so when an opponent is moving and everything, and you're trying to like keep a beat on them, this helps with that as far as like firing your weapons, allowing your weapons to track them and land more accurate hits literally on them if they track right. So if you're tracking them quite well and your bullets are quite accurate, you're going to be doing good. Have these two if you're a kinetic energy built AC. By that I mean people who shoot bullets. If your AC is built more along those lines, try your best to have these stats as high as you can get them. Now, if you're a melee focused build, this is where it gets slightly different. Melee specialization, this corresponds to how much damage you're going to do with a melee weapon. So let's say you have a POW bunker and your melee specialization is like 50. You're not going to do a lot of damage. But let's say you have a POW bunker and your melee specialization is like 160. You're going to be doing some damage, okay? And it really boils down to that. It's that simple when it comes to arms. Understand what you're going to be using and pick arms accordingly. If you have no melee weapons, don't try to put an arm on with high melee specialization. It's literally not going to help you unless you plan on kicking things. If you're kicking things, you're kicking things. But for the most part, don't do that. Try to keep within your lane when it comes to what you're going to be using as far as weapons go. So for our build before, we had one melee weapon. Our melee specialization does not have to be super high, but I would like for our recoil control and firearm specialization to be a little bit higher than what you see here. Now, as far as arms go, this correlates with everything, okay? I could show you a brief example. So let's go look at, where are they at? These arms. These arms have horrible recoil control, but have great firearm specialization. This could be a bit of a pisser. Hard to kind of actually test because, well, I would have to get someone to help me do this. But let's say your opponent is moving side to side a lot. This allows you to actually track them a little bit, like we said before. But with your recoil control being so bad, you're not going to land anything. So, for example, let's put a Gatling gun on. Where do we have a Gat? We have a Gat. Okay. Okay, so we have our Gat, right? A great way to test this is by aiming at a wall. Blank wall. Just look at where the bullets go. Now, you see how some of it is in a straight line, and others is just like splattered all over the place. I'll do it again so you guys can see. Actually, let's go look at the wall. Yeah. Okay, it didn't show that it went away, but let's back up a bit more so you can see it easier. It starts to just spurt all over the place. You know, that's bad recoil control. Let's change the arms to something with great recoil control, which would be 145. Oh man, that's kind of high. Yeah, right now it's the highest one I got. All right, we swapped arms. Now let's do it again. Still spread, but we had tighter groupings. Much tighter groupings. It spreads and it gets tighter again. Spreads, gets tighter again, but it's a tighter grouping. That's huge. Okay, when you're fighting people, if you can't land the shots that you're shooting, then what's the point, right? Okay, so that's arms. Now, cores are important. Cores, work with your boosters and in turn your generators. So let's go look at this core. As far as cores go, again, AP, defense, blah, blah, blah. Now, attitude stability, this is important because there's certain parts to your AC. I think it's the the legs and the core. Let me double check that. Yeah. Arms, core, and head that dictate your attitude stability. Now, attitude stability, we spoke about that, what that was already. Your resistance to actually get staggered. Booster efficiency adjustment, generator output adjustment, generator supply adjustment. These are insanely crucial depending on your build. So, the higher this value, the less EN is consumed by quick boost. That's your booster efficiency adjustment, which kind of makes sense. So, quick boost, if you look over here, quick boost EN consumption, this is the value for that. So, your boosters, this is what I mean, your core and your boosters are going to work together. Depending on how your core works with your booster will dictate how well this actually works out as far as EN consumption goes. Now, the generator output, the higher this value, the greater the final EN output for the generator. This is important because if your generator output isn't high enough, you literally can't put on certain weapons. You'll run into a EN limit. So you just don't have enough energy to do it. Like, it's like if you try to put a tiny car battery on like a giant massive truck. I mean, the battery is fine. It just ain't got the juice, my guy. Now, generator supply adjustment. This is an important one as well. Like, as far as like deep combat goes, this is super important. The higher this value, the more quickly the generator resumes supply after EN consuming action. So let's say you boost. How fast do you get your fuel back, your EN back? How fast that comes back? That is targeted with that, and that also goes with your supply efficiency over here and your recharge delay. Recharge delay is kind of in the same park because depending on like if let's say you boost until you're completely out. This dictates how long it takes before you actually get your energy to start recharging. And this one determines how fast it comes back. And I know, dude, it gets kind of wild. Hopefully you guys are understanding. There is your generator itself that dictates how fast and how much comes back. And then once those stats are figured up, how fast the rest of it comes back is dictated again by your core. I figured this part would be kind of confusing. So we're not going to like cross the streams. Let's just finish talking about the core. So once we understand that the booster efficiency, generator output adjustment, and the generator supply, how these values work, again, correlate them with your boosters and your generator, because your core works directly with your generator and your booster works with your generator. So it's like this nice little love triangle, if you will. When you decide to choose a booster, I usually tend to start with the generator first because the generator is the bottom of all this. You want to look at the stats. Your stats, let's say this one. This is a good one. I love these two generators. They're so good. This generator, EN capacity, 2720, EN recharge, 909, supply recovery, 454, post recovery EN supply. This is if you run out of, I'm pretty sure it's if you run out of all your energy, how much comes back. Yes, so after you completely burn yourself out, this is how much of your energy comes back. And if you can see, our capacity is 2720. We get 1,100 back after we go, like after it gets completely wiped out. We start with this much, and then the rest of the meter goes up to full. So that's actually quite useful in case you're trying to, if you have to move a whole lot and you can't wait for the full recharge, at least you have quite a bit to work with off the rip. Supply recovery is how fast it comes back after it gets completely depleted. So once you go completely down to zero, how fast it comes back, and this is how much of it comes back. Now, supply recovery corresponds with your recharge delay, which is over here. These two, the supply recovery and the recharge delay is one in the same essentially. How fast it takes for you to come back, how fast does it come back when it is back, and how much you get. Generators are kind of confusing. I'm praying that you guys understand what I'm talking about here. I'm doing my absolute best here. I apologize if it's kind of hard to follow, but it's kind of a bit of a wonky thing. Okay, so hopefully we understand that. Remember, EN recharge, supply recovery, post recovery EN supply, and your EN recharge delay EN supply efficiency, and EN capacity is all dictated on your generator and your core. Okay? Your generator is what's going to give you these numbers flat. Your core is like, okay, we have this much energy, we can utilize this much stuff. How well can we utilize the said energy? You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes a bit more sense. Now let's go look at our booster. Now, as far as boosters go, this is my favorite booster in the game. But boosters, you have thrust. Everything is important. Thrust, upward EN consumption, quick boost thrust, quick boost jet duration, quick boost energy consumption, quick boost reload time, quick boost reload ideal weight, assault boost thrust, assault boost EN consumption, melee attack thrust, melee attack EN consumption. Oh my goodness, a lot to talk about. So let's start at the top. Thrust, very, very easy to understand. What thrust is how fast your AC moves when... Easier to just show it to you. Okay, so when you walk and let's say we turn our boosters on, at the bottom it says boost on. This is thrust. This is how fast we move. This is thrust. How fast you move when you're boosting. Now, depending on the generator, it can go faster, it can go slower. I think this has like the second highest thrust in the game. So now we're gonna go even faster. Kind of maybe hard to see for you guys, but I'm playing, it's totally faster, 100%. That's why I use it. It just feels a lot faster. Now, that's thrust, okay? Upward thrust. When we were talking about jumping, as far as like reverse joints go, and then after you get to your max jump, after that, you have to start using energy. When you start using that energy, that's what this upward thrust is. Your ascend, if you will. Upward thrust dictates how fast you go up. And then your consumption is how much energy you consume as you go up. Okay? Very self-explanatory. Very easy to understand. See, this is my jump height, right? Not very good, but how fast you do that jump is your upward thrust. As well as this. Now that we're going up, how fast we go up as well. Now, quick boost thrust, quick boost jet duration, in consumption, reload time, and etc. So the quick boost thrust, the higher that value is, the faster you thrust. Okay, wow, that actually ate up a lot. So how fast you actually move, like zoom now is kind of quick, right? Because it's pretty high. Now your jet duration, don't get these two confused. The speed in which you thrust and your jet duration is two different things. Your jet duration is how long you thrust, and the longer you're able to thrust, the further you're able to go. That just makes sense. If you drive car longer, you go further places. I don't know what else to tell you. You know what I mean? That's just simple mathematics, okay? Now, the other parameters, of course, the reload time, the in consumption, and the reload ideal weight. So if you have your ideal weight, your load, your max load, weapons, parts, everything, if it's under 62,400 pounds, if you will, you're gonna have your reload time be what it says. If it says it's 0.35, you're gonna get 0.35, okay? You're gonna get that. Now, reload time is how fast you're able to boost consecutively, right? So we were able to kind of do that pretty quickly. There are others that are like a lot slower. This one is pretty slow. It's like half the speed. You'll notice. Okay, now we swapped it. See, even the quick boost speed is slower. Like the speed we talked about is slower, and the amount of times you can actually quick boost, well, the speed in which you can quick boost consecutively is slower as well. That's quick boost reload time, and we spoke about the ideal weight for your AC to be, so that way you can boost more consecutively. Now, assault boost thrust, assault boost energy consumption. Don't have to do it. It is what it sounds like on the tin. Your assault boost thrust, the higher the number, the faster you go when you boost. And the energy consumption is how much energy you consume when you assault boost. Now, melee attack thrust, melee attack energy consumption. When you do a melee attack, so let's go put something nice on. Let's go put, what arm is this? Let's go put the laser blade. When you melee attack, it uses energy. Especially if you're charging it. That's what this is. So if you're charging it, it uses energy. So we're going to use one. It's going to have a charge on it. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. It's going to use energy. And it's going to have a thrust. By the thrust, it means how... Is it how fast? Let me double check it. I'm pretty sure it's how fast. Most melee weapons are capable of homing on enemies with certain ranges. This value increases the speed. Yes, so how fast you home in on them. So like if you have very low, you're gonna grandpa towards them. So let's get an AC out here. AI none and trainer AC. Bing bang boom. Okay, there he is. There's the lad. So we're all right. We're locked on. Let's do it. Okay, speed was okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Whatever. Let's crank it up. What's the highest one we got? 10k. Okay, I know there's one for 14 I don't have right now, so you may not see the difference, but it's the same rules apply. Slightly faster, dude. Let's actually go back. I want to see if I can, but I don't have the money, but it's slightly faster. But that's what that means, the attack thrust. I originally thought it was how far you thrust out to go reach that young man out there, but it's how fast you boost towards them as you're homing. Now, as far as the other parameter goes, well, the energy consumption, it's what it sounds like. Like I'm not gonna show you because none of the values here are large enough to really show like a huge amount, but we will try. So let's at least check something out. But it's what it sounds like, depending on how much energy you use, or how big the value is, how much energy you tend to use up, which can be a bit of a pisser. Let's say you're assault boosting, and then you do the thing. We use a lot of energy there, but let's say it uses so much you can't act after that. Because a lot of times, dude, after you do a charge attack, you want to get out of dodge because you're too close. Or let's say you whiffed. If you whiffed, you have to get out of there. Whiff is if you miss. If you miss, you have to get back and readjust yourself. So from empty or from full, we do about a quarter. Okay, let's swap and do, was it these? Yeah, these have the least amount. So now we do it again. A tad less than that because I don't have ones that have a whole lot more, a whole lot less. I should have bought more boosters, but whatever. But that's essentially what that means. Now that we spoke about all of these parts, let's talk about the FCS very briefly. Very simple, easy to understand. FCS. So this is the brain, the computer chip inside your AC. All this does is it helps you keep a target on things at different ranges. And if you're using missiles, it helps keep your missiles locked on. Well, it helps with missile lock on. So close range assist, the higher the value, the easier it is for you to keep a lock on enemies at a close range. These ranges are dictated by within 130 meters for close, 130 to 260 for medium, 260 and greater for long range. So how well you stay locked on, or how far, or how well you stay locked on, and if you're able to aim and lock onto them from these ranges. That's kind of how these work. Now, missile lock correction and multi-missile lock correction is the same thing. This not necessarily. They just dictate the speed. So like the speed in which it takes for you to lock onto an enemy and then shoot your missiles. Multi-lock is how long it takes to get the multi-lock function. You know, when you hold your missiles. It's the same thing. So that's FCSs. After the FCS, we did generator FCS, boosters, legs, arms, chest. We talked about weapons, and now the head. Head is the easiest thing to look at because they do a whole heck of a lot less than what they used to back in the day. Dude, the head back in the Armored Core 5 was probably like the second most important part of the entire build because it dictated basically everything. It dictated your boost, it dictated your aiming. It dictated a lot of stuff. In this game, not so much. In this game, all it does is help with attitude stability, how quickly you can recover from things like being set on fire or being hit with a whole lot of electricity. These are two, we call them blights or ailments. They don't happen very often, but some enemies, some bosses and stuff, they can put you on fire and whatever. And being set on fire makes it very easy for them to stagger you consistently. That dictates the recovery, system recovery, dictates how fast you're able to get up out of that. Scan distance and scan effect duration. Now, self-explanatory, of course, but let's look at it. Range within which scanning can detect enemies or part containers. Now, when you see a scan, when you do the little scan thing, the actual ring that goes around you is the exact same size for every head. It's within that scanning circle ring thing is how far within it you're able to detect those things. So let's say the scan ring is like 1,000 meters. This head can only detect 300 meters within that 1,000. That makes sense. Now, the duration is literally how long you're able to see your enemies and containers and such within that range that you can detect for a set amount of time. You have some heads that have like super good like duration, like this has 12. I think this one 13, 15, you know, but they may not have the best scanning distance, you know, so a little give and take here and there, you know what I mean? Some please and thank you goes a long way. So that's basically how heads work. And as far as all the parts go, expansions, I'm leaving it to you. Assault cores, pulse armors, and everything. They're... I don't know, should I talk about this? It doesn't really dictate, like, a build. If you want me to talk about this, let me know. We'll make a small video about, like, your core expansions. I don't have it here now because I lost all my data, so I gotta go and get them all again. Freaking sucks, but yeah. If you want me to talk about core expansions, that could be a separate video. How long is the video already? This video is 50 minutes! So, let's just wrap it up here, guys. As far as, like, making an AC, these are the things that I try to understand when I'm making an AC. Everything, as far as the weapons go, what am I fighting, what am I doing? As far as the parts go, am I comfortable with using certain parts? Do I understand certain mechanics? As far as the generators and stuff go, they in turn correlate right back into the main parts of the AC. We talk about how the booster, generator, and the core all live together in harmony. The FCS and your weapons all live together in harmony, because if you are using long-range weapons, don't use a short-range FCS. You can't hit them joints. But if you're using a close-range FCS and some close-range weapons like shotguns and melee weapons, run that crap all day, son. Now, if you're using a lot of missiles, try to have an FCS that has some decent missile locking capabilities, so that way you can utilize your missiles to the best of their abilities. The FCS is basically for all your firing capabilities, so try to have an FCS that matches your playstyle, what you're going to be doing. Have your core, booster, and generator work together in cohesion, so that way you can do what you need to do. And try to have legs that can basically do what you need to be done. If you're using heavier weapons, you can use a heavier leg. If you're trying to do some tomfoolery, like use like tank stuff, remember how tanks work. Same with quads, reverse joints, if you're trying to like maneuver around, as far as like have better air superiority. Also with air superiority comes with tetrapods. So keep in mind what all the parts do and what you're trying to build to have one cohesive AC. And guys, this is exactly the stuff I go through every single time I sit in this chair, get behind this microphone, and make a build video for you guys. I go through all these steps before I make a build, and then make the build, and then give it a cool name, and then test it out. Now, after you make the build, tons of testing, dude. Tons of testing. Go the AC testing arena is amazingly good. Better than what it was before. Test it in the arena, test it with your friends, use the AC test function. It's just great if you're not fully certain on certain parts of your build or whatever. I test things relatively extensively now that I have friends, because literally back when I made Armor Core 5, Armor Core 4 videos, I didn't have any friends. I have friends now. I can make a build like, hey guys, run this, tell me what you think. And then I'll have 4 people run it and be like, they'll give me their feedback, and then I do some tweaks. We work together, get it all done, bing, bang, boom, AC video for you guys. So remember these things, watch this video a couple of times. Hopefully some of the stuff was pretty clear and concise. And if it wasn't clear and concise, let me know what you want me to further emphasize on, and I will pinpoint, make a smaller video. I might even make a YouTube short. Focus firing on parts that you guys still don't understand, or parts you feel like I didn't explain better, or I should have done just, you know, I just should have done better on what. Just let me know, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Long video, but hopefully this helps somebody. Hopefully it helps you guys to have the confidence or the ability to kind of make better ACs for yourselves. With that being said, it's been your boy. Take care.